Sugar.
We have everybody? Yep, we're ready.
That pie.
Yep, there we go. All right, welcome back from the lunch break. We'll go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda, our 1 o'clock item. Consideration of proposal investing in staffing, infrastructure, and technology, and this will be presented by Maria Valadez, Register of Voters, and Department of Register of Voters.
What number is that?
Registrar of Voters, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
No, 6.11, I lied.
Okay, good, got it, thank you.
I don't have to read them.
That's right.
I can read my notes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Maria Valadez, Registrar of Voters. I'm here to present proposal for investing on our future in the elections. Where do I go to the next slide? This. Why we are here. So, meeting expectations with limited resources. We have to meet all state, federal election laws. And we have to certify an election. Oh, am I too far? No. And we have to certify an election 28 days for a presidential election, and we have 30 days for the other, all other elections to certify an election. In addition, we have to be in compliance with cybersecurity, ADA, language accessibility, and other requirements. So this isn't about inefficiency, it's about capacity. Despite exceptional staff efforts, our limited resources cap what we can process in real time. In 2024, 21 new laws were in effect, which impacted 162 code sections, which means it impacts various processes in the election. This year, the CACO is tracking 87 bills, which 68 of are election related, which means if any of these pass, then processes change again. Between 2020 and now, we've responded to 86 PRAs. That's a lot compared to what it used to be. And it'll probably continue increasing. That's something that's not gonna go away. People are really interested more in elections. It used to be we were, not visible until after 2020 when things changed. So just to give a general idea of where we are with ballot returns. As you can see, the majority of how people vote are by mail. So 56% of the ballots that were returned by mail at the last election consisted of 56%. That was 13,331. So people can mail their ballot as soon as they receive it. We mail it out 29 days before the election, and it has to be postmarked by election day and up to 7 days after to receive it. So the mail trend is kind of slow up until about 2 weeks before the election, and that's when we start receiving more ballots in the office. The drop box has been a good, our second highest rate where people drop off the ballots. We have 6 ballot drop boxes throughout the county, and so people to utilize that. We had a little over 3,500 returned for this last election at the drop boxes. And then at the polls on election day and at our office between E-29 and election day, we had 3,000. So on election day, from the polls, that's about 1,700 or 1,800 that were probably returned through that process. So we didn't get to verify the signatures, open ballots, and count those. So we could only process what we've received through a certain point for the election night reports. Provisional and CVR are smaller. Now that we're allowing the polls staff to call our office to verify that a person hasn't voted their ballot, then they can go ahead and vote in person. But as you can see, that in-person vote is just 10% of who votes at the polls. But we are still required to have all the polling place locations on election day because we're still a polling place county. Hours worked. So I had staff provide how many hours we've worked just from the period of election E-minus 29 days, which was October 7th through certification date. The gray bar shows how many hours we worked in a weekly period, and the period started Monday through Sunday. And then we showed how many ballots we issued during that time through the mail and counter, as well as how many ballots were verified. And then, you know, in addition to the returns, we still have to continue issuing ballots between E-minus 29 to election day, in addition to the mailing out the sample ballot booklets to the same voters that register late or re-register. I wanted to make a note here. On election day, we asked for the phone log. And on election day, we answered over 4,700 calls that day. We had 5 to 6 people manning the phones. You know, a lot of it is, where do I go vote? Where do I return my ballot? Or the poll workers calling in our office to verify that the voter hasn't voted so they could vote in person. So we fielded that many calls, which, you know, when you only have 5 staff members and extra help, it kind of makes it difficult. And then we still have to, you know, help the counter and issue ballots. Our legal mandate. So just like all the counties, we all have the same rules, but we all have different resources. We're focused on speeding up post-election processing always. That's our main priority all the time, making sure that we're, you know, being innovative with making sure with what we have to make processes go quicker. Our 4 priorities include staffing, infrastructure, technology, and support. We handle everything from voter registration, candidate filing, campaign finance, petition signature verification, to ballot tabulation, issuing ballots, returning ballots, signature verification. The complexity has increased, but our staffing and infrastructure have not kept pace. I know we moved into a bigger room from 900 square feet to almost 2,000 square feet. That's usable, workable space. But, you know, with the demands and the vote by mail growing and growing the way it is, it's, you know, we've outgrown that building at this point. Our core proposal, it's targeted to investment to accelerate results. The week after election, we had only processed 681 ballots, and the board interest is for us to produce faster results while complying with state certification timelines. And our current system stretched to the limit. It's not about doing more with less, it's about doing more with what's required. Everything here is carefully prioritized to get the biggest efficiency gains first. So that 681 ballots processed, one of the things that when the day after election, you know, we came in at 5 o'clock in the morning election day. We go home when we're done, and we crawl back in to open back at 8 a.m. The same staff that, you know, worked the day before. We come in and we have to go through all the stuff that the poll workers brought back to the office, which includes all the bags. You know, we have 22 polling place locations, 26 boards, so that's a lot of stuff that we have to clear out of our space, that's our workspace, before we can get back to the processing of ballots. So immediate efficiency gains in my thought process is to accelerate the canvas. I would like to request an elections technician, reclassify one of my specialists to an analyst, and add 6 extra help for canvas shift work. This would allow us to work in shifts, have a morning shift, a midday shift maybe, or an afternoon shift, which would allow us to continue the process versus, the people that are here work their 6 or 8 hours and then they have to go home. And then replace one of our aging ballot scanner. And that's my first thing. These would be the most direct responses to your request for earlier results. The technician will boost IT and mapping, and the analyst will free up operational stuff. They'll be able to work on other stuff that is needed along with what we're required to do with reporting and so forth. It would allow for more hands during Canvas. The new scanner will produce faster, more consistent updates. So we would be able to have more people. So a lot of the processes in elections requires 2 people at a time. So the 2 people that are working on something would have to stop to work on the other thing. So I know we have to work on these processes, and March was the first year that we were required to do weekly reports. So we're getting there. November was our second election that we were required to do this. In the past, we would just do results at the final by certification. We were required to stop to do weekly updates. Our structural stability. So my priority 2 would be to add 1 elections manager, at some future, and add a part-time election specialist. The registrations continue to grow. We have online registration with DMV. People become registered, so we have to process those registrations. So that registration doesn't go down, it goes up. There's also updates, cancellations, there's pre-cancellation notices that were passed and that we had to start doing in 2024. So we have to send pre-cancellation notices to, I believe it's deceased, felons, and conservatorship, and those 3? Yeah, we have to send pre-cancellation notices to them before we can cancel them. Give them 15 days to respond or not respond, and then we can cancel them. So again, a lot of stuff has increased in our stuff. These roles will improve continuity, reduce burnout, and allow better supervision. A manager increases logistical capacity for shift work. And the part-time specialist, like I said, will also, in addition to voter registration, will fill critical service gaps during peak election cycles. So they'd be working full-time during the election cycle, which the election cycle consists about 90 to 60 days before the election and 30 days after the election, once we certify. My third priority, space and tools to keep up. So the signature verification system, based on some of the research we've done, would provide a 20% faster VBM processing. But, with the machine, we need staff to be able to oversee it and run it. The verification is a bottleneck. It'll automate even part of that process as that has outsized benefits. However, our current office is too small to securely and efficiently handle expanding these services at the moment, because we looked and our current extra help workspace is between 120 to 150 square feet. The machine that we've looked at could be anywhere between 150 to 200 square feet. So we would reduce our workspace for the extra help even more at this moment if that's something we purchased. I do want to note that there are some voting system funds that we still have, a little over $130,000 that we could utilize to offset the cost for the signature verification system. And I think we have to use the funds before June of 2026. So, but again, we'd have to look at our current space to be able to bring this system in.
What's the price of the system?
We got a couple of different quotes on that, and we're looking at, let's see. Sorry, I have to take off my glasses to read. 240 to 280, and that doesn't include like annual software and hardware maintenance. That'd be in addition to the cost. That would be just the cost to purchase the equipment. One of the other things that our office could use is a van. During the election process or cycle between 29 days before the election through election day, we're required to collect the ballots from the drop boxes. It's twice a week for the first 2 weeks and then 3 times a week the last 2 weeks. So, and then on election day, we have to hire staff to go out and lock those boxes on election day at 8 o'clock. But the people that, the van would be for the 29 days in the office where we go the twice a week, 3 times a week. Right now, Central Garage has always been helpful with us, but they have like the small little Ford Escorts that when we put those 4 bags, 6 bags, it's pretty tight. We used to borrow a van that they had before, but it's no longer in the pool. So, and then another thing the county should consider is setting money aside for modernization of systems. In 2019, our voting system was decertified, which means we had to go back and purchase a new voting system at that time. And that was over $200,000. I'm sorry, $300,000. So just having money aside, because we never know when, that could be decertified, along with aging equipment, voting equipment. We will be having to replace our printers that we purchased with our voting system because they'll reach the end of shelf life. So those will have to be replaced. Right now we have about 40 of them, but I think we could replace 30 of them, which would be about a $24,000 cost once we get to that point. Right now we would just use what we have until we no longer have any extras and then purchase them, one at a time. But to replace them all, it'd be about $24,000. And then our printers in our office as well, they reach a end of life shelf and they're no longer serviced. So, we'll use them until they no longer work, but it should be noted that, at some point we should designate money in a fund for election voting system replacements. Our fiscal approach, is responsible phased implementation, prioritizing for long-term savings and efficiency based on internal analysis and state comparisons. And if the board is supportive, I would provide detailed costs and models would follow. I had in my here that we're not asking for a blank check. We're asking for a green light to move toward responsibly, to what it is you guys feel that would be more helpful to our department. And then to return to your board with more specifics on anything you guys think would be something you would want more information on. This would be a sustainable path forward. It would provide us with the tools to increase capacity. It would build a more resilient, responsive election office, and it would equip us to protect and strengthen public trust. We've stretched existing resources as far as they go. These targeted investments ensure Lake County remains transparent, timely, and trustworthy in our election operations. I respectfully request your support to move forward. Any questions?
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, I appreciate you putting this plan together and bringing it to us so that we can be more efficient and better prepared during election season. But I have some questions. So are you asking for 2 new permanent full-time positions?
2.5.
2.5. And are they gonna, like, really be utilized year-round,
Yes.
not just during election season?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we're getting to where there's so candidate filing has become its own thing. Campaign finance is its own thing. We're having to, which, by the way, the campaign finance, we actually automated. But we still have to make sure that we follow up with people that have committees. There's more people running for office than there used to be. And I don't have a number on those, but, they have to file forms 460s, 470s, all of that has to, and if they keep the committees open, we're required to, monitor that and look at those so that if they have any updates that we reach out to the, committees to make sure that we stay in compliance, that we stay within the deadlines, that they're not being late. All the petitions, all the initiatives for the general November election, we had to verify signatures on all of those before they go to the ballot. So in a primary in 2024, and I don't know how many initiatives were on the ballot, but we had to verify signatures for all of those. It varied, 2,000, 3,000 with each petition. So that's 12 petitions that were on the ballot this last election. So we had to verify signatures during a primary. The off years, even though we call it the off year, but the only off year we've had no election was in 2023 and hopefully this year, but in 2021 we had the recall election, and there's a recall process right now for, Governor Newsom, and if there's signatures, we're gonna have to verify those signatures. So our odd years we kind of take in, and everything we endured in 2024, we come back and we sit down and we say, how can we speed up that process? Sometimes we have to implement something in the middle of election, and we do it in a manner and then try to improve upon it. But, after we've had 2 elections, now we're going to go back and we're going to be like, okay, this didn't work. Now we need to improve upon our processes. So having staff dedicated, specialized in certain fields, we're required to have an outreach plan where we have to do more outreach. It just, all of that takes time, and it requires specialized people in the different fields. And it just makes it hard when we're spread thin. I'm having to read 87 bills to kind of see which ones affect and to try to keep up with those to make sure that, hey, if this passes, we have to change our process now. In my informational packet that I put in there, if anybody was able to read to it, there are so many times we have to pivot. Today was +3 days for returning ballots. Next time it was +7. During COVID, it was +17. Requirements that the laws throw at us, and we have to turn around and make sure we comply.
Okay, and then is it 3 different equipment or 3 different systems? The ballot scanner, the signature verification, and the voting system? Is it 3 different systems that need?
Well, the
to
voting
upgrade, or are
system
they all the
consists
same?
of the ballot, the voting system. The scanners are for the voting system.
Okay.
The signature verification system is a standalone system. It allows us to scan the ballots so that staff can, or again, the system, we would set it to where it would validate automatically a percentage of the signatures without us having to manually review them. But, anything that doesn't get verified would still have to be under manual review.
Yeah.
It would also allow us to sort some of the ballots by precinct, but again, that requires you run it through the first time my understanding is you run it through the first time to scan it for signature and then you have to run it back through for signatures verification. It could date stamp, it could open the envelopes. It does a lot of different things depending on what it is we're looking to use it for.
And so you were talking about your equipment and end of life. So, I mean, this is one thing that I brought up with the CAO's office and all department heads, and budgeting is planning in the department reserves for having to update equipment. So is that anything that you're currently planning for?
My plan is right now. I'm going to have to talk to Stephen and see when that was going to be part of something that I have to bring back before the board. As of right now, we're okay for the next election cycle, but maybe the fiscal year after that, we need to start talking
It
about.
seems like anytime you have an investment, like you have to start planning for the end of life for that investment. So it's, planning, saving, putting in reserves as you go is probably a good practice across the board. Yeah.
While I don't disagree with the planning and saving, general fund departments do not have reserve capabilities. That would be within the main general fund. So like our technology reserve
Okay.
for the whole general fund is what
It's-
would be the reserve for.
So that's where we
also
should
used
plan
this,
for
just
it
like
there.
was used for the ERP.
Okay.
But individual departments do not have the ability to throw off a reserve because they're all in the same fund.
Okay. So that's good to know. But it is something that we need to be looking at.
Yes, that's why we have a tech reserve.
That's why we have the technology reserve fund. Okay. And then,
I do have to say that, Stephen has been really good about working with me with questions and answers on these and stuff. And initially that $130,000 that we had set aside could be utilized because it's we get reimbursed 75% of a purchase cost. So, but holding on that money until we really need it, because we actually had talked about it. Initially, the contract had expired, and we reached out to the state and asked if they were going to extend that contract. So it got extended so that we can keep that money before it goes away, because at that moment, it didn't make sense to buy equipment when our current equipment is still working. So, I mean, we're,
That makes sense.
being fiscally responsible by not spending money and holding on to it until we have to purchase anything.
okay. And then, so the office space, does it work on the off years, your office space currently?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we could look at expanding during election season, like renting another space or using another.
Our central count location is at the office. Moving equipment to other facilities, I don't know. I think that would have to be a plan I'd have to try to figure out. It wouldn't be feasible because our ballots are stored in our room for issuing ballots. Our ballot counting system is in our computer room.
I know, but we just built that out.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, and then.
So again, that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, at the moment, if you're asking me, I think staff would be my first request. That would be my first, like, having more staff would allow us to, again, more extra help. Because I don't think I included on here, but just requesting more extra help.
Yeah, the extra help is on.
During the season,
Yeah.
so that we can work those different shifts. Like,
And then, for the vehicle, again, like, it's hard to justify buying a vehicle for just certain times of year when there is a pool vehicle that sort of works, or maybe there's an investment in a pool vehicle, if there's a need for other departments, or maybe just renting it for the season. I think those are some options to explore too. Because I understand, there's this need to expand and contrast throughout the years, and it's trying to find the balance of what makes sense
right.
in the years when you need the extra staffing and the extra space and the extra equipment, and the years that you don't. So, I'm glad that you brought this to us. There's a lot for us to think about. I think there's a lot of analysis that still needs to go into what these requests really entail. But I think just trying to stay as agile as we can.
Vice Chair?
As I said, last year in 2024 was the first year we had to do the reporting requirements, and it happened to be in March, and then in November, And then I do have to add that we were short-staffed by one permanent employee in November, which, you know, when you have knowledge that's not available, and then we have, but I mean, thankfully we had somebody that had worked with us before that came and helped, but at the same time, we had lost that person that verified signatures at a large quantity amount. So, I mean, under the circumstances, you know, we managed to maintain and continue in doing and meeting the deadlines that are required of us.
Vice Chair.
So as I understand, so it'd be 2.5 full-time plus a reclass. Is that what I'm reading here? A reclassification of 1
Yes.
full-time plus 2.5 full-time?
Correct.
Were you looking at that, at requesting that like all for next budget year, or would that be something that could be phased in over?
I mean, I think my priority one was to, I think reclassing one position, and if you gave me a part-time position to begin with, I think we could work with that, because that part-time position could work full-time during the election cycle, and then at some point increase. You know, right now thankfully IT does help us with a lot of the stuff that requires certain IT stuff to be done, but it'd be nice to have an in-house IT person to help us with, the ballot design, the hash testing, like all those other things that we're not IT staff members that, but we rely a lot on IT. And I think sometimes we put a big burden on their department, them being so short-staffed as well. But I mean, at some future, an IT staff member and or a supervisor, because, once you get more people, then you need people to supervise, to help supervise all the extra help that you have and anything else, so.
And so I think with one of the pieces of equipment you were talking about, you said that would basically take up the whole amount of room that
It would take up a big
we have extra
chunk
help
of,
working in?
a big chunk of
So how,
space in that
if we
area.
did purchase, how would we deal with that in the current facility?
It'd be tight.
Okay, well, I appreciate this detailed report. I definitely want to help however we can. I feel a little bit at a disadvantage because I don't know what the budget looks like today. I haven't seen that yet, so I'm assuming you've been talking to Stephen about these, or the budget office, about these requests and seeing what may or may not be able to be worked in.
Well,
so I just kind of feel like
Well,
I don't have a lot of info.
didn't talk to him about the positions I'm requesting at the moment, because I was waiting to get direction from the board. And I know that, with the budget this year, everybody's, kind of having to reduce their budget, which makes it kind of difficult.
And one last question, if we got all this new equipment, the voting system, the scanners, and
Well, it wouldn't be the voting system. We would be setting money aside.
we wouldn't have to
or-
replace that right now.
No, and like I said, the scanners, we would need to replace at least one of our scanners at the moment, because we have 3 scanners, but 2 really are so slow, and so we end up just using the faster scanner during election time.
Okay, and so if we did get whatever equipment we needed, can the same amount of staff run that equipment as what we have now, or is there staffing issues?
We would need to hire extra help, and I mean, we would have to train the extra help. So the 5 permanent staff members are us answering phones on election day. So, because, you have questions on what's my precinct, what's my, versus just simple
So
their
Adam,
questions. So, I mean, that's why it'd be hard. I mean, we're spread thin right now. So having that additional staff would help us make sure that we're in certain divisions of that process where they could oversee it along with extra help assisting.
okay, so at a minimum, if we got new equipment, we would need at least more extra help to manage that.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Supervisor Owen?
Well, I'd like to thank you. I know that you've got a really tough job and you've got a really great staff. So I would like to say thank you for what you do. And I think that you're underappreciated.
Thank you.
So I have a question for Stephen, probably. Do you know if with them being in need of additional space, is the public defender's office, is there available space there? No, the new, where we leased the 15,000 a month, that building? Is there additional available space there that can maybe house them?
We can look into it, but last we checked, there was still space rentable.
Space rental? Oh, I thought we rented the whole,
We rented a whole floor.
oh, okay.
It is three stories.
There's 3 stories, okay.
So not within what PD rented, no.
Oh, okay, no, so all of the space that we rented is taken up, okay. Okay, I was just trying to,
We're currently in a lease, so, and that was a 10-year lease. So our
Okay.
10 years, I think, expires in 31.
okay. And then I was kind of on the line, thinking along the same lines as Jessica, in the essence that during election time, it might be a thought to look into a lease for that month or whatever for a van, opposed to,
I honestly, I mean, as much as I think that only thing that I could foresee us expanding would be to serve the voters on election day. Like we could do a 1-day rental and issue ballots for voters on 1 day at a location, but to open ballots and to signature verification, our system is in our office, and
Sure.
I don't see how that would work.
You'd
have to have,
a
like,
lease
a-
of a van?
I'm sorry?
A lease rather than a buy on a van? is what I was
I'm not talking
just-
about, I'm just talking about, like, I don't know what part of the processes you would be asking me to move off-site.
Oh, no. I was looking to see if there was enough availability to move your whole, but I didn't know you were
Oh.
a 10-year lease.
Yeah. Oh.
So it was looking for something with a larger footprint to house you. So, but it sounds like that's
And
not
I think,
gonna
I
work.
don't think anything temporary, in my opinion, would work right.
Mm-hmm.
How the systems work, it'd be kind of difficult.
Okay.
I don't see, I mean, if you guys have a suggestion, I mean, I'd be willing to look into that, but it just, I don't know how that would work.
Okay. So the six people on the temporary, that would just be, you stated, just to clarify, so that'd be like 60 to 90 days before the election day and then 30 days after on the extra help.
The additional, yes.
Yes, the additional help. And then currently, what you're asking for is a classification change on one and a minimum of a part-time or
I
one
mean,
plus
if
a
we had to
part-time?
sit here and compromise on something, that would be, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, not a compromise, sorry, just a request.
yes,
That would be something that we could work with.
sure.
And at some point, you know, the board would probably, you know, me or the department head, whoever's here, would have to come back at some point, because again, the requirements keep increasing.
Sure.
and
The
we are s-
bureaucracy,
And we're scattered pretty thin, you know. I said that I think our department's the first department that's been able to clone people, because we have to wear multiple, I mean, I know a lot of counties do, but I'm here for registrar to, you know, but we do. We clone ourselves to be different hats at the same time, you know. We're working on candidate filing, then we have to turn around and work on vote by mail, you know, even signature verification, whatever it is. You know, so,
so 1.5 new hires and a classification change.
I mean, at least a classification change and a part-time. You know, I don't know what the budget is like. I can't sit here and
Okay.
request, and put a request. It'd have to be something that you guys would have to give me direction on. But, I mean, increasing staff in the department moving forward is something we should really consider. You know,
Perfect, thank
the
you.
expectations from the outside in, you know, the lawmakers make the laws, and we have to implement them, and we do it in the best manner that we have and that we can, based on our current staffing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sending out the list and prioritizing them as well. I'm going to go through them one by one real quick. But before that, I just want to say the only reason we're here is because of articles, complaints, and impatience with the process that takes place in order to count ballots and to put out the right information. There is nothing that is incorrect in how you do things or what you do. The integrity of our ballot, integrity of our elections is very strong. And so I just want to make sure to say that we are not solving a problem that doesn't exist. We are looking at being more expeditious in the process to see if we can make people happier about getting the results of either they lost or they won faster. And I'm sure on one side it hurts more to find out faster than the other. But it literally, it's a issue of the 21st century where everybody wants the information now. In fact, I just want to real quick make a statement. Your department, has always taken the full 30 days to certify, 28 days, whatever it is. And now there's a state law that actually forces certification to be more alongside of what Lake County used to do. Folks, other counties used to certify a whole lot earlier, which means that people's ballots would get dropped because they didn't have time to correct them. They didn't have time to do the right procedure for their ballots to be counted. So I've always appreciated that we've done that this way. And in fact, now there's a state law that kind of mimics what it is that we used to do. I think it's good to see updates. So I like that new law as well. I know it's more work on you. And obviously, again, we're going back to the main gist of why we're here. People want thousands in the updates, not the hundreds that we were able to do in the first one. And then it got bigger and larger as things were able to move forward. Within all that, there's the 1% hand count that needs to happen as well in a timely fashion. There's a whole lot of processes that occur within that. So I just wanted to make those statements first. So I'm going to go through the priority list.
Thank you.
I'm not comfortable in the state in which we're in to add more staff. I am comfortable in opening up conversation with our IT department, who already supports the election. He supports all departments, but definitely during the election, there's a heightened support. What can we do to do a larger amount of time to your department outside of just elections? Is there capacity within IT? I'd love to see those conversations and see what's possible, and even bring back to see what's available. Because if by chance somebody that would fulfill the IT GIS, it's not 100% full-time, it's 90, 95, then we would be able to utilize that IT person in other departments and other capacities that would be helpful to the county as well. So I would like to have that conversation just to see where it goes. Okay. The reclassification, I don't know enough that I think it will help you, but I'm happy to look into it and happy to see what that would look like if there was a reclassification. The extra help, it obviously depends on the dollars that are available. I think that's should be available if there's dollars available for that. All technology, I think I'm interested in. Obviously, you need to have continued access to the same technology you have. We're not abandoning anything, but if there's anything that can help you, even 20%, whether that's to count for the Newsom recall that you were just mentioning, or whether it's to count for the actual ballot, whatever could be helpful to make sure that we can process that faster, even 20% of 19,000 ballots is going to be a whole lot faster. So I'm happy to look at that, and the price does not seem extreme. I'd love to more know what the annual cost is.
I do actually have that. For the annual software, we're looking at a little over like 12 to 13,000, and the maintenance is about 16 or 24,000.
And they'll get you every little penny that you can. As far as the facility expansion, I don't know enough, but I think there's got to be a way to be able to VPN into your facility that you have currently and use whatever facility might be nearby, such as you and I talked about at the Silvera Community Center here in Lakeport. Is that an opportunity? Is that possible? Again, I'd love to see those conversations with your department and IT department and seeing what's possible and what's not possible, because I don't know enough. As far as the van, I just love to, we have SUVs, we have other vehicles, and I would just say we need to have one vehicle where at a specific time frame for an election, it is on hold and it is dedicated to your department, the Registrar of Voters, to make sure you have the means to move around all the ballots in a safe way and the ability to do outreach and whatever your needs are. But I think there's ways to look at a lot of these and make them possible. Obviously, it's going to come down to dollars and cents in the long run, but just wanted to at least place my comments on each one of those items that you brought to us.
I do want to point out that the one thing we could not do off-site would be to scan our ballots. That has to be at our office because that system isn't on VPN, or it's not on internet connection. It's a standalone system, so the ballot scanning would have to still be conducted at the office. Like I said, signature verification, we'd have our machine at the office, maybe that part of the process, but we have cubicles for staff to be able to verify the signatures. So it'd be the opening of the ballots. That would be where, if we can hire, a lot of staff to be there at once, that would kind of like what we did during COVID, where we came down here to open ballots, to be able to expand a little bit more. That would be the only location. Unless we could come to the courthouse and use your room.
Makes it
Like we did.
difficult for 30 days.
Does that lease that we have an exit clause? Do we know? That'd be something I'd be interested in knowing, like
I'm not
if we
sure.
find other space in the next year.
I'm
or
not
so.
sure. I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
And just, it's important to know that we put a little over $75,000 that we invested into that building to accommodate, what we currently have, so.
Anything else? No. All right, so I'll open it up to the public. If there's anyone that would like to speak about this item on the agenda. 6.11. Not hearing any, I'll bring it back to the board. Is there anyone on Zoom? All right, I think this is direction, right? Mainly direction. Let's see, do you feel like you have is it direction?
Can I make a statement real quick?
Please.
I'd like to thank my awesome staff, like you guys said, Lourdes, Savannah, Shauna, Julie, and all my other extra help employees and the poll workers. Without them, elections would not be possible. So I want to give them
Thank you.
big kudos.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Maria.
They're the backbone to my office, and my department, so.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the work you do. Did we have a consensus on direction?
Well, I want to say where I'm at. I feel like I'd like to, I don't feel like I can go with the direction that's recommended here until, I'd like to see a report with what the costs of all of this is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Come back to us, because I feel, while I want to help however I can, I feel like I don't have enough information and not knowing where the budget's at right now. And I think we're right in the middle of working on the budget, so that's a good time to try to get these costs to figure out what may or may not be possible this year or in future years. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I understand these priorities, but I'm interested in looking at how we can be flexible with what we already have, or short-term rentals, or, like I said before, having the ability to expand and contract even without looking at the budget, we can't do all of these things. So, I think more information is needed on the staffing piece of this and what could be leveraged with other departments that we may have. I think there's ways that we could look at that too.
I know that, did you have anything else to add, or, no?
I said my piece in the specifics. I'm open for hearing back about technology. I'm worried about adding positions. It seems to be in contrast to what we're attempting to do. And as far as the extra help, I think that's always there. It's just whether the money is available. So I don't think we need to say much about that.
I would like to say one thing about the
Let's
extra
do-
help. That's one-time money, so that's not the same thing as like a new, a
Budget,
full-time position.
budgeted
So
item.
That's much easier to come up with than ongoing revenue.
And the equipment is one time, except for the ongoing maintenance. So that would, we still need to look at those costs for the year.
When was the deadline for the spending of the money before you lose it for the equipment?
I believe I have to submit June of 2026.
Oh,
The
okay, so
reimbursement?
it doesn't, okay. So we're still solid right now? Okay.
I did get 2 quotes from 2 different vendors on the signature verification system. But I don't know if you guys need me to go through that technology, what do you call it?
Differences in them?
Technology Group Committee.
Yeah.
Oh, the technology committee, yeah. That would go through that, right?
If I need to go through that, or, because one of the vendors is willing to come and do a presentation to the board, so you guys can kind of see what the automation process would be for that part of it.
I think that helps, and what helps for me is just seeing the return on investment, like whatever, like you've given us these solutions and the results that you want, and then I like what Vice Chair had said about getting us some more information on on what it's going to look like, the cost and whatnot. But my decision will be based on return on investment, and a lot of what you've already said that will help. You're finding solutions that will help, expedite or have more solid results. So yeah, I think that would help, and for a presentation, so that we can know which quality that we're getting for that device.
Okay,
if you will.
I can reach out to one of the vendors, so, at least you guys would get an idea of what the systems do. As far as the extra help, that's kind of a challenge sometimes, because not a lot of people want to work extra help and on call and during certain timeframes. But we're going to do our best to start advertising if we get the funds, and even because it makes it hard to find people that are only willing to work for a certain period of time. Or today you're 4 hours, tomorrow you're 6, and then you're off the following 2 days or whatever. So, as long as I get the go-ahead to increase my extra help, I can start looking for more people. Once, I provide numbers to give you guys an estimate of that. And as far as the positions, that'd probably be something that I'd have to sit down and, because there's not a position that's an analyst. That's what I'm kind of was looking for. It's not a created one that is for election specific, but I'd like it to be election specific. Because, we are a specialized department.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, I was just going to mention again, I'm open for the reclassification to hearing back. What does that look like? What does that mean financially? And I also hope that we can engage and open up conversation about the possibility of being offsite and what can work, what doesn't work, as well as engaging with IT to see what more capacity is within IT to better engage with, not better engage, that's not the right word, but to engage more with your department, since you seem to be requesting and saying there's a need for that, for that type of expertise.
Right. For the time that what we're talking about for the building, I just want clarification. So you guys are looking for us to, like, the 29 days before, and through certification, look for a facility that would accommodate more workers? Is that where we're?
I think this is a conversation we can have at the space committee.
Is that what we're talking about? Like,
And I think it starts with IT to see if it's possible. If it's not possible, then it's a waste of time to have a conversation with the Space Committee
Yeah, but
if she
Shane's,
can't leave her site.
yeah, but Shane's on the space committee.
He is?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, because we can't just pick up a lot of our systems and go. We need to make sure that we have, because it's, voter data that it would be like a satellite location, I guess, where we would have to have.
And
Set up.
I bet there's a
I'm
flexible way to make
yeah.
something happen. I get it that you're not online for safety and security reasons.
I think that
but
would be my
maybe
biggest.
that might actually mean you can move it around to the next site because you are not connected to something. So I don't know. I think the conversation is worthy just to see, can we accommodate a more comfortable space during high intensity time?
Okay. And would that conversation come back with you guys and IT, or do I have that conversation with IT?
Sounds like it would be with the Space
I
Committee.
think it goes to
Committee.
the
Space Committee?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
And we have a meeting scheduled already for next month, so if you contact Lars, he's the one that sets up the,
So have me set up something with IT, okay.
I think,
Or
yeah,
if
The
you're
Space
listening,
Committee.
let's put
Space
it on
Committee.
there. Let's
That's
put her
what I
on there.
and we
If
can,
you're listening, Lars.
Lars, put me on the
he's
agenda,
probably
please.
listening.
Okay.
Huh?
And go ahead.
Yeah, so with the FTEs and budgeting for an election, maybe that's where we look at the budget and what you think you might need when you're putting that budget together.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, like you had a budget for last year's election and you had FTEs, or I'm sorry, not, part-time. You had some extra help,
Right,
right?
okay.
And so put that in the budget. So that, is that,
I have it in the budget. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
when you're budgeting for an election, that's a good place to put those numbers in for your extra help.
Okay, so do I update my current budget that I submitted and give you new numbers for extra help?
Well, I don't think we have an election this year.
We do in June.
Okay, for next year, right, so.
This
Oh, that's
fiscal-
Oh,
right.
right.
June is
this-
technically
Yes.
this
that's
next
right.
fiscal year.
Okay, so yeah, so I think that's what you would look at.
And when I was talking with the director, we were gonna change that at mid-year depending on how things worked out, so yes, we can talk about it.
Well, okay, let me think, sorry. So the next fiscal year we're talking about, yeah, would be our June election for this,
Right.
yeah, 25, yeah. Okay.
Supervisor Owen?
And Stephen, would it be you to check in on that contract to see if there was I know that it was mentioned that the current facility, it's a 10-year contract, so whether there's an out, as Supervisor Rasmussen had asked?
We do have a version of the contract, so Public Services would also have a version, but we will take a look.
Check
at
that?
this.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe in space.
Yeah, and the space committee will
Yeah,
get that.
perfect, thank you.
And I just brought that up because obviously in 26, we're going to be talking about what to do with the fourth floor, so there could be a lot
Yeah.
of
Mm.
Yep.
different changes going on that could be considered.
Yeah.
All right. All right. All right, we good?
Okay, thank you. And so am I coming back to the board, or am I just meeting with these other, or
So
just to make
once-
sure, I just want to make sure
So
I'm,
once you meet with space, we'll figure from there and then budget,
Okay.
that you'll meet up with Stephen to adjust your budget, and then I think with space, we'll figure out from there if you need to do a presentation, and go from there. Does
And
that sound
maybe
about right?
HR with the extra position.
Oh, that's right, and then,
And the voting machine demonstration.
okay,
Bring it
I'll
back.
reach out. And that could be its own presentation, right?
And if there's any differences between the two models?
I mean,
Whichever one you do.
I got quotes on both of those, but
Yeah.
just, I mean, if I bring in one, would you want me to bring in both, veterans?
I would say let us know the differences.
I think just having something that shows the differences. If you have both that can present, that'd be great, but if only one does, have the opposite, to show which one you prefer and why it would be auspicious. Vice Chair?
Well,
I just-
wouldn't I have to go through wouldn't I have to go through an RFP?
Yeah, that wouldn't really follow purchasing procedures. we would have to go through an RFP
Okay.
process.
Take back what
I was just thinking of having somebody come in and do a demonstration
So let's,
so that you guys would
let's
be
get-
familiar with the process.
let's get you to get with admin to help with that,
Okay.
that process.
In essence, who
Okay.
they select through the RFP process, that would be the perfect one to give the
All right.
presentation.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, just before we close, I just wanted to mention that, for the record, that we had gotten a public comment about this
Yeah.
item this morning that, without reading the whole thing, essentially was encouraging us to look at options to, support the registrar in future
Oh, that's
elections
right.
and things like that.
Yeah, that's right. It was in the public comment. Thank you
Yes.
for,
So
thank you.
I just wanted to mention it for the public's information.
That helps.
Right here.
Oh, Supervisor Sabatier?
Sorry, that did remind me of something, and I know it's more work, but if it's possible to fit in, I don't know when the last time was that you went to high schools to do any kind of presentation, but I am certain if you can let some of the students know that they get paid to be out of school, to be part of elections, that you might just find some extra help there as well.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, some of the schools require, because of the age, the work permits, they're not allowed to work beyond a certain time. And it's up to the district to allow them to work in addition to, the parents. But I know in one occasion, we did have a student willing to work and the superintendent shot it down because they couldn't work beyond a certain time frame. So, we've reached out to the schools. We could reach out to the schools and see if it could be part of their, community service type of stuff. I don't know.
That's funny, because they could do 8 hours of community service anytime, and they don't get
But they can't work
restricted, but as
beyond a
soon as you
certain
pay them-
time, so polls close at 8 and they'd be required to stay there until they're done. So that could be 11, 12. So I don't know those labor laws for that part of it, and that was kind of something that the superintendent had mentioned, so that we'd be in violation of, so
All right,
Makes no sense.
well,
I don't know.
'Cause it's a state law that they're allowed to do that. Anyways.
anyways. Thank you very much. Is there anything else, or are we good? Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Maria, for that,
Thank you.
and
Thank you, Maria.
follow up with
And
the
thank you to the
groups,
staff
yeah.
for coming with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right,
They're gonna pick me up off the floor if I fainted.
all right.
Thank you, guys.
We'll go to, so that's, our timed items are complete there. We'll go to 7.2. Consideration of update to the 2025 Board of Supervisors Committee Assignment List. Stephen?
Thank you, Board. So this request came in from two supervisors currently on the board. They would like to switch who's the primary and the secondary on the committee.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Anything to add about that? Which committee it is?
It's APC, and it's just not working with my calendar.
Okay, and everyone's willing to make the change?
Yeah, I've been going to the meetings and I'm happy to switch spots, not a problem.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. I'll open it up to the public for anyone that would like to comment on this. No hands in Zoom. All right, we'll come back to the board for action.
I move that we approve the update to the 2025 Board of Supervisors Committee Assignment List.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. All right. Let's go, we'll just go straight down. 7.3, consideration of agreement between County of Lake Continuum of Care and Adventist Health Clear Lake Hospital Incorporated to provide services under the Homeless Housing Assistant and Prevention HAP Youth Set-Aside Initiative in the amount of $127,665.52 for the period of December 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027. And Supervisor Sabatier?
If you would like, I can elaborate on this since this went through the COC.
Right.
So the COC had approximately $250,000 to spend on TAY, the transitional age group, youth, and we received two separate proposals. And one of them is in front of you here for Adventist Health, who offered their proposal where they would set aside, I believe it's 2 beds at the Hope Center for transitional youth, with anticipation to expand those beds further. That's my brief summary that I can provide.
Looks like we have Director
Oh,
Jones on
She was there.
Zoom. Would you like to add to this, Director Jones?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any questions? I'll open it up to the public for any questions on this item. Bring it back to the board for action.
I apologize, Director Jones. I did not see you there. I move to approve the HAP Youth Set Aside Initiative in the amount of $127,665.52 for the period of December 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027 to Adventist Health Clear Lake Hospital, Inc.
I'll second that.
And authorize the chair to sign.
And authorize the chair to sign.
All right. So
Apologize.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you very much for that one and for chiming in. I didn't see her neither, so until after you were talking, she came on, so. But it worked out. 7.4, consideration of changes to the County of Lake hiring incentives policy, and B, discussion about the existing list of qualifying positions and using the hard-to-fill criteria to determine eligibility. And it looks like we have Pam Samick here to present this item.
Forgot to include the list of positions that we currently include, so I've got copies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Pam Samick, HR Director. Today, we're here to talk about providing some clarity around the definition of newly appointed employee. We are recommending that we change this definition to someone who has not been employed in a permanent capacity within the last 2 years. You want to discuss this one before the next item, or?
Continue.
In addition, we would like to discuss removing the list of qualifying positions hard to fill and just use the criteria to determine eligibility based on the incentive policy.
And
Steven?
anything else you want to look at within the policy.
And anything else to look at in the policy, is that what you said? All right. All right. Supervisor Pyska and then Supervisor Sabatier after.
Yeah, I'm okay making this change, but if there's any hiring or negotiations or potential people that are kind of caught in the middle of this, how would that, how would we make sure that we don't disrupt what's already in motion?
So once I get direction, we'll update the policy, send it to the unions for a meet and confer, and anybody currently in a position that is open where we listed the incentive would still be eligible for the incentive as listed on the job opening.
Okay.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Appreciate that clarification. I'm very much in favor, not entirely, of clearing out the hard-to-fill eligible positions. It just feels like the majority of the classifications seem to find themselves on the list. I think that we do need to apply ourselves and at least prove that it's hard to fill through 2, but there's some on there that I'm uncomfortable taking off, and that would be department head and safety.
Yes, that would not change. The positions listed as automatically eligible would stay eligible per the policy.
All right. Vice Chair?
Yeah, just for the record, I wanted to state that what Supervisor Pyska brought up was going to be my exact question. I didn't, if there's something going on, I didn't want to stop anything. I didn't want that to get changed by any policy update. So I just wanted to make that clear for my thoughts.
No, in addition, they would still have to meet the hard-to-fill criteria, which is resulted in 2 failed recruitments in a 6-month period, recruitments that have resulted in 3 to 5, less than 3 to 5 qualified eligible candidates, and recruitments that resulted in a candidate declining an offer as listed in NeoGov. So they would still have to meet that criteria, which even the hard-to-fill on the list meet that criteria, minus the safety positions who are automatically eligible.
Right, but if someone is, say, in negotiations or something and they haven't, it's the 2-year, if they haven't, if that 2-year doesn't apply to them, but they're negotiating with somebody, I just don't want to disrupt what could be happening.
Yeah, right now, we define newly appointed as being never been employed by the county, is the way we've been applying the policy. So this actually opens it up and is beneficial, because now if you left and have come back in that 2-year period, you're now eligible, where previously you were not.
Stephen, did you have something before I?
Yeah, it's slightly different, so let's see what
Supervisor
Supervisor
Sabatier.
Sabatier has to say.
Yeah, I just want to clarify my statement. I'm okay with clearing the hard-to-fill eligible position, but also clearing the automatic hiring incentives to only be safety and department heads. Right now, there's welfare fraud, there's air quality engineers. I think that I would prefer seeing a process to say these are hard to fill. I just wanted to clarify that.
And the air quality engineers will expire per the resolution in June 30th. So that would change. And then deputy probation officer, those are considered part of safety. And as is the welfare fraud investigator, unless you're not considering them safety.
I see that as slightly different.
Yeah, I
They're not keeping our streets safe and our communities. Are they important? Yes. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray. Did you have?
Well, the only other point on that is certain situations, they get activated to that first responder. Like if we had an emergency or something, they could be, so I've just thrown that out.
Oh, okay.
I know most of the time they're not the first responder, but they certainly could be
Could be.
at any time.
All staff.
All staff is actually a first responder
Yeah.
for a disaster.
I mean, even behavioral health.
Yeah, disaster worker, if that's the situation, but certainly they could be called out though on just any other major law enforcement situation that's not a disaster. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you. Stephen, did you want to add to?
Well, my monkey wrench to throw into the ring here is nothing ever survives first contact with county council. So on the end of our first sentence, in the past 2 years of the proposed appointment, makes it a little more clear what the 2-year range is. So it's not 2 years from when you theoretically get hired, from the date of appointment.
Date of hire or date of, well, date of appointment and date of hire, this one and the same.
Yes, they are.
So that's their first day on payroll.
Correct. Don't look at me.
So it's just to clarify, because as it's drafted right now, it says a newly appointed employee, so on and so forth, has not been employed by the County of Lake in a permanent capacity within the past 2 years. And the question for me is, of what? Past 2 years of what? What's the timeline we're talking about? Your past 2 years after the passage of this amendment? Or should we clarify that more to mean past 2 years of whether it's termed the date of hire or the proposed appointment of said employee?
Supervisor Sabatier.
My only problem that I can come up with that versus the application date submission is the reason for the hiring incentive is we need to hire you now. And if you're gonna put an application and you need to now play games and wait for another 30 days so you can get to your 2 years, that doesn't fit, and then we're gonna give you extra money as well. I would say it should be the application date that you submit that you need to be within 2 years. Just because, to me, it's to expedite the process, to attract attention.
Fine from this side.
All right. Pam, did you, go ahead.
Yes, but you could apply and be on an eligibility list for 6 months. So date of hire may make more sense?
I just needed to make that statement.
Okay.
All right, Lloyd?
And really, for purposes of clarification, there just needs to be a marker. That would be my recommendation, whether it's date of hire, submission of application. There are practical considerations that your board should consider in setting that mark.
Agreed.
All right. Which is
I'm okay with the hiring date,
date of hiring.
or whatever that date
I
was that
see
you first
two
said.
other heads shaking, and you
Yeah.
say yes. We have a consensus, right? Or we looking for direction or action on this? That first one, so that's gonna be action, and then the second one is, it's just discussion, right? Okay. About hard to fill so that we can make action on the first one. There we go. All right, I'm gonna open it up to the public, briefly, so. All right, I'll bring it back to the board. There is a hand in Zoom. Okay, hand in Zoom, please unmute and. All right, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question. Are you going to be discussing the Airbnb TOT tax today?
That is going to be next, so if you.
I'm sorry, I'll wait then.
We're almost there. All right. So the hand in Zoom was for the next item, and we'll go ahead and close public input, and we're ready for action.
Are we changing the hard-to-fill eligible position or keeping it as is?
I thought we were changing it.
But we were keeping the law enforcement.
They're
Yeah,
automatic.
safety, yeah, safety's automatic.
But could I get clarity on welfare fraud investigator, whether we consider that on the automatic list or not?
Well, and you say no, you say yes?
I say no.
I'm okay either way.
Okay, you?
I don't think it's technically safety.
Okay, well, you have what you need.
2.5 versus 2.5?
Well, no, yeah, it's,
No, we had
she said well, you said you don't think it's safety, right? So you have 3.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought she said, I think it's
Yeah.
safety.
No,
My bad.
Either
I'm
that or
okay
I
with
was gonna come in, yeah. We're good. With that, right? You have that? Okay. And then, was there one more that you were thinking of, Lloyd?
Just for your board's consideration on the language of the motion, when your board is ready.
Will you want to give the language and then someone can say,
Are we keeping that only these are eligible for getting the incentive, or you go through the incentive process, and if you meet the criteria, then you get the incentive?
I thought we,
I was just curious, because I didn't hear a final answer of we keep this list, because this list is different than the safety, because the safety is automatic.
yes,
Yes.
safety's,
We kept that.
You don't
on
have
there.
to go through 2 hiring processes.
Mhm.
Here, you can go through 2 hiring processes for people not on this list, and they'll never be on the incentive list. Here, you have to be listed in order to receive the incentive or be eligible to receive the incentive.
And that's what you were asking for, correct?
Yes.
How about we re-clarify what what I think
Please.
that you guys are
please,
saying. We'll change the first sentence and include the hire
right.
language. And then in automatic qualifications, remove air quality engineers and welfare fraud investigators, but leave department heads, deputy sheriff, 1, 2, and corrections, dispatch, and deputy probation officers, and remove the list. Just go by the qualifications that are in this policy already.
I think that was, thank you for doing that.
I second that.
That's what I think.
So I move to approve as was just stated to update the policy. Change the top line for 2 years with a specific date, change it so that air quality engineers comes off as of June 30th, 2025, and welfare fraud investigator is off, and then we only follow the criteria. This list no longer exists.
I second that.
And so, yeah, so for further clarification, that would be the approval, your board's approval of the County of Lake hiring incentives policy would be approved as amended, as outlined by Supervisor Sabatier and Assistant CEO Carter, and direct the Human Resources Director to engage in any necessary meet and confer with the county bargaining units.
That is exactly what I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, so that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh.
Motion carries. Were you coming in to help? We just passed it, but yeah, come on.
I just wanted to, sorry. Hi, Diana Rico, Deputy HR Director. I just wanted to clarify, because it was stated that we were removing the welfare fraud investigator, and that does require a basic post. So I just wanted to make.
Post-certification?
Correct. Yes.
So they are.
Yes.
Well,
Reconsider?
Reconsider.
you want a motion, we can motion to reconsider? Or rescind the motion, or which way do you recommend, Lloyd?
It could be, since
Substitute
we're,
motion?
if I may just have a minute.
Okay. All right.
Way to throw a wrench.
30 seconds sooner, Diana.
I know.
Maybe 10.
I ran in
actually.
here. I'm out of breath now.
So your board may move, since the item has, my understanding is the item hasn't been closed at this point, so your
No.
board may move to reconsider the previous motion that was just made on this item. And so that would be the first motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
I
Diana.
I move with the exact same motion as was stated by county council, minus the crossing out of the welfare fraud investigator. Does that work?
Prior to that motion, just on a procedural, as a procedural matter, your board may move pursuant to Rule 8 to move to rescind the previous motion that was just made on this same item.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And just to complete just to cover all the procedural
Basis, yeah.
aspects of this, Mr. Chair, you may open it up at least just for anyone who may
Public.
need to public comment on those two previous motions.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to come up and talk about those previous motions or anything to add to this? And no hands in Zoom. I'll close public input and we'll go from there.
Then that would be.
So I move to approve the County of Lake hiring incentive with changes to the purpose line to define 2 years specifically at the hiring date. Remove air quality engineers once it expires on June 30th, 2025. And remove attachment A, hard to fill eligible positions. And direct our HR department to meet and confer if necessary based on these changes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Are we good, Diana?
Thank you, Diana.
Pam, are we good? All right. All right. Let's see, so next we have 7.5, consideration of transient occupancy tax relief of penalty and interest, and we have tax treasurer collector, Patrick Sullivan.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, Board. Patrick Sullivan, County Treasurer Tax Collector. So I'm here today on transient occupancy tax. And just for an update, I know it was mentioned in the memo, but recently our office did acquire new software. It's called Rentalscape by Deckard Technologies. Your board may recall about 5 or 6 years ago, we did have sort of an earlier version of a software like this from another company. That's what led to our first big sweep for short-term rentals in the county, trying to identify rentals that were not registered and were not paying taxes. Since then, this technology has advanced quite a bit. We've been very impressed with the results so far. As of April 30th, the software and our staff was able to collectively identify 172 unregistered vacation rentals, or short-term rentals rather, that we have sent letters out to. In addition, there's probably, I'm guessing from what we're seeing, maybe another 50 out there that we don't have fully identified yet. That's going to require further investigation. Just for perspective, we have 209 registered short-term, well, we have 209 registered TOT properties in the county. Something that could be a hotel, a campground, a short-term rental. So I think the interesting point to note here is that based off what we found so far, there are not just more short-term rentals unregistered in the county than registered. There are more unregistered short-term rentals in the county than any sort of hotel, motel, campground. So the scale of this is quite large, especially compared to the previous operation we did. So I just wanted to check in with the Board of Supervisors and understand how the county wants to approach this. As it stands right now, the original guidance provided by the board would still be in place, which would permit, if it's a first-time offender and they cooperate with our office in our investigation and enforcement efforts, waiver of interest and penalties is possible. They do have to, at least under the current process, they would have to appeal to the Board of Supervisors. But the way we were dealing with that before was that if they had provided all the proof, we were able to actually get those penalties and interest waived before it came to the board. So that's why your board wasn't seeing all of those appeals actually come through, because most of the time people are able to remedy that beforehand. So I think there were only maybe 2 or 3 appeals last time that actually came in front of the board. But now what I guess I'm trying to understand is this is not our first time going through this. We have in the past informed people about this, and we've had public discussion of it. Does the county wish to continue proceeding with waiving interest and penalties if it's someone's first time, if we've never had a record of violation with them before and they cooperate? Do we want to continue doing that for a certain amount of time? I mean, are we going to offer that maybe for another month and then stop? Are we not giving full waivers? I guess the scale of what we're finding so far is much larger, and our office would just like clarity on how to proceed. The other request, regardless of which way your board goes, is that it's our belief it would be much simpler for Treasurer Tax Collector staff to deal with the review instead of having people do the appeal to the board. If whatever criteria we come up with are set, then it doesn't have to route from our office to admin to the Board of Soups. We could probably cut a step here, and that's the other piece, no matter which way we go. So I was just hoping for some feedback and guidance, and that can determine what steps are needed next.
Supervisor Pyska?
First, I'm really glad we never waived our right with Airbnb to go after these people, because that was something that came to us many times, and we didn't do that. So, great job.
Okay.
And second, this is a lot, and it's disheartening that we've had this many operators operating for a long time, but because it's so many, I'm willing to give like 30 days of a grace period of if they're willing to work with us right now, come up with a payment plan right now, and we don't need to do it through an appeal, whatever's easiest for you. But I don't think that we should have this go on indefinitely, but it's a lot to deal with right now. And we got to get these people paying regularly. How much of this 172 is in the county, and how much of it are they in the cities?
This is actually, we've already excluded the city. We were able
Holy
to
moly.
use that. In the cities, from what we can see, there's more vacation rentals operating within each of the cities than I believe they have registered as well. So this is a issue throughout the county.
Not surprising, since we've figured some areas, I won't say where, had alarmingly low numbers of reported short-term rentals. So I'm glad that we're doing this. And, yeah, I think we need to handle this as fast as we can and get everybody, to agree to start making these payments in 30 days. Do we have any idea how long these people have been operating?
So that really depends. Most of the people, from what I've seen, have been operating in the past 2 to 3 years. There are some that are going back further than that, but that's somewhat rare, only because we did do that sweep before.
Yeah.
But that sweep was imperfect. The technology was not as good. There are people who sort of slipped through the cracks there and have not had notice. But I would just say from what I've seen so far, 2 to 3 years is the average. I would qualify that though as well, that some of these people put up their listings seasonally. So right now there's about 2,000 listings countywide, which, but people list on multiple platforms. So there's not 2,000, that's why there's not 2,000 unique properties, but 2,000 listings, but people take them up and put them down. So I don't know, this is just a moment in time.
Right. I was going to ask about seasonal listings. So are we going to be running this monthly, or what's the frequency?
The software actually updates daily. So this is a lot more sophisticated than anything we've had in the past.
And how much did we pay for this?
$10,000 roughly for the year. So it was definitely really well worth the investment. There's a lot of staff time though. I just want to qualify that. This is a lot of follow-up work. So it's still going to be a long process to get through all of this.
Right. Yeah, but this is important revenue that needs to come to the county.
And this has primarily been since COVID, basically.
Yeah, but what we're looking at now is primarily post-COVID. Like I said, anything past 3 years is a bit more rare.
That's interesting.
Supervisor Sabatier?
So appreciate you bringing this to us. I think this is not the same situation as last time. We have housing shortages. This is not helping our housing. Rent is through the roof, and we're about to give a buy for people who do not have a fair business practice, who potentially have been undercutting other people who are following the rules and paying their taxes. So I don't think we need to do the full gamut of what's possible, penalties and interest. I think interest is really compounding, but I'd love to do the 50% and meet halfway and say penalties need to apply. It's on your website. It says transient occupancy tax. It talks about it. If you open up a store and you don't pay your sales tax, we're not going to tell you it's okay, but from now on you need to pay your sales tax. We're going to come after you. The state's going to come after you. We can't let this slide. We've already done it once. They're sliding by, and us saying it's okay, who else are we going to say it's okay to as well? People with code enforcement violations? Like, you have a responsibility when you're taking care of a business to do the right thing. So I think we need to get people in line, and from now on, after this one, it's the full gamut. That's my position.
Real quick, Patrick, does it compare and contrast how other counties are affected by this same situation that you're dealing with, or something that's similar? I mean, I know it's not always going to be the same, but is there any type of comparison?
So I think there's other counties, especially rural counties, that have a vacation destination attraction like we do. They've experienced this as well, where they've just located a number of unregistered rentals that far exceeded what anyone expected. The way in which counties have handled that has been drastically different, right? So I think you've seen everything from what we're doing, where they're waiving interest and penalties, to counties that struck a deal with Airbnb and agreed to forgive all the back taxes and penalties. And so, yeah, I think you could probably find an example of any which way you could. I think our approach has been somewhat measured because we haven't forgiven the back taxes, but we have worked with people in terms of payments, and at least up until this point, we have offered penalty and interest relief. So I guess if I could say from my perspective, I think we're somewhere in the middle of how we're approaching this.
And I know that last year you and I had talked a lot about short-term rentals and whatnot before you went and with Rentscape. And an ordinance on our end would be probably ideal once you get this moving.
Yeah, I know our office, we have had contacts from folks that are, frustrated with some of the points you've had constituents raise, I believe, which is too many rentals clustered in one place, or the noise, or other issues associated with them. But that's where right now the only information in our ordinance is for transient occupancy tax. There's nothing to do with the regulation of that, and that's all through CDD. So I think perhaps if you go further with that, or if any of the other county departments are working on that, we can definitely help provide data
Right.
now that can really outline where all the rentals are and what kind of usage they're getting, and that may help guide whatever policy the county wants to pursue, because I think this is a level of information we've never had before.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Let's see. Any other comments? Vice Chair? Yeah.
With another month or so of something like offering the relief, but I think,
Oh, your microphone.
sorry again.
That's okay.
I'm okay with going another month or so with offering relief, but I think, we need to, folks need this has been going on for a while, so I don't want to go much longer than that.
A month, you said?
Yeah.
You okay with a month?
I'm okay with the month.
You too? Well, we have it. It's 3-2. Well, I mean, I didn't say, but yeah, I'd rather just, yeah, I'd rather just go for it now. I know that so the reason I say that is because with code, I am not, it's nothing against code. They're doing their best. There's some instances where some folks are still continuing, and now they've done a really good job with this. And I'm giving an example, so forgive me for straying off, but they're doing good with this dump day. And so they're able to give people these amnesties and using that as a baseline to do it. And then there is another one where we had somewhat of a amnesty per se. But again, I'd rather just take it from them, because again, the business practice of just kind of flying under the radar. Plus, that's why I also asked you if there was comparisons, because I've had a lot of folks that are doing Airbnbs, just heard them say that, like, well, there's nothing in place, so I'm going to do it type of mentality, right? Not only that, but complaining that we're now starting to look at taxes because they've gotten them in the mail or whatever the case may be. And so they're like stating that we're just trying to kind of nickel and dime them when they've been getting away with it for how long as it is, right? So I just, that's why I felt the way I did, so, or the way I do. But we have the direction you need. Maria?
Thank you. I was raising and lowering my hand because I wasn't sure if I should actually add anything to this conversation. But I just wanted to remind the board that currently the County of Lake does not have a short-term rental policy.
Right.
We have 2 different sizes of what we call bed and breakfasts, but that also requires the property owner to live on site too. So it really doesn't, the zoning ordinance doesn't address what we've been seeing the last few years with this uptick in short-term rentals. So the board may want to take that into consideration as well.
Right. Thank you for that. That's one of the things that we was looking at when I was working with Granicus, but then, again, you were working on this one. I think this one was basically a better deal. So they were looking at something similar, but after you and I talked, this was the more ideal way to go. And they were also going to help us with an ordinance, but at the same time, we'll do that.
I should just add, because this was a below the dollar threshold, our department did go through a competitive bidding process to determine which vendor we went with, and Granicus was one of them.
Way more, yeah. It was way more than that. So, Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. You're asking us to make a decision today on you handling appeals, us forgiving, not forgiving. Originally, when we did this, was it a written policy or a resolution that we passed?
So that's actually one of the things I wanted to get clarification on today, was that the original article that brought this into being was a resolution. So depending on what your board stated today, my thought was to bring back a resolution with the new direction. I don't know if County Council wants to weigh in on that.
Only that along with that proposed resolution, so staff can certainly, with board direction, work on that. It would have to be consistent with what's currently in place for, I take it, still transient occupancy taxes, right? And that's addressed in Chapter 18 of the Lake County Code. That's Article 2, starting with Section 18-10A onwards. That addresses, or that covers the procedures for the collection of these taxes as well as the appeal to your board, and that is still in place.
Yes, and so the resolution, it was, just for everyone's reference, it was 2019-118. And that was on August 20th of 2019. And that's referencing the section of code that Lloyd is referring to. So since we originally did this through resolution, I'm assuming it's appropriate to update through resolution, or I can follow up later. Sure, okay.
All right, anything else to add? Did I open it to public?
No, not yet.
I'll open it up to the public. That's right, there was someone on Zoom for sure. If you're on, please unmute, and you have 3 minutes to speak. David, if you can unmute. Okay, we'll go to the next hand. Mo?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yes.
Hi, my name is Madison. My family has been enjoying Clear Lake for 3 generations. We have a family cabin there that recently
Can you give us your last name, please? Sorry.
Amaral,
All right.
that we recently decided to rent out. We actually tried to look to see if there was a TOT tax, and we couldn't find anything. And I think it sounds like 172 other people might have had the same problem. I'm a good person. I always pay my taxes. It was truly actually difficult to find. And when I finally got the letter, I called the county and they had to tell me exactly where to look. If you type in to Google Lake County TOT tax, nothing comes up. So it was actually really difficult to find. I want to pay the taxes. I want to support Lake County. I want to see it thrive. I just am asking if there's any sort of option for like a payment plan, because I simply don't have enough money to pay all of it at once.
If you'd like me to respond to that.
Yes, please.
Okay. We have worked with operators in the past to determine sort of like an extension date for payments, particularly if it's a larger amount. And so far we've been able to sort of reasonably accommodate that. We are stuck within certain timeframes though. Typically we really aren't able to go much past 6 months for other reasons, for both administratively and legally. So we can work with people up to a point, but at some point we would have to take enforcement action.
Would it be similar to how with the, back taxes that are owed, folks can get into a payment plan? Does that have any weight or any similarity?
It's not the same because that tax plan is unusual. That's laid out by the Revenue and Taxation Code with the state. Because this is local, it doesn't follow the same rules. But I would say we've been able to be somewhat flexible within that 6-month period. Much past that, we lose a lot of our flexibility. But if anyone has issues with paying, I would definitely encourage them to reach out to our office as soon as possible.
All right. Next.
So am I still on? So I did reach out and they said that there was nothing they could do and that they weren't sure.
Okay, well, you heard from the treasure tax collector that they're willing. So let's see if we can get you in to another phone call or some sort of correspondence, whether it be email or whatever, so you can ensure that we work that out. All right, next person. Nick?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. My name is Nick. Last name is Breska. And I actually have a very similar situation to the last speaker. It is a family cabin that we recently decided to start renting out. And, we did research to try to see if there was any local taxes that we had to incorporate into that process. But I will also say that, we're just an individual family. It's not like we're a hotel. I know some people were comparing us to, bed and breakfasts or hotels. And, we're just looking to, enjoy Lake County. We would like to pay this tax, but it wasn't willful that we were not paying it in the first place. And like the last speaker said, we're just looking for some kind of an option for a payment plan. We've called into the county and received similar guidance on just not being able to make a decision one way or the other. And, we're really just looking for some kind of a way to move forward without, having to come up with thousands of dollars, in effectively a couple days. So, I just wanted to put that out there and also just see if there was any way that we could put together a payment plan. I wasn't quite sure if that was available moving forward.
I think it's looking like that's going to be something that the treasurer tax collector is going to work out. Did you want to add to that, Patrick?
Yeah, I have been involved in a few of these conversations, and I think one of the points of confusion may be is some of the folks have contacted our office were pointing out that they did not collect the tax, that they did not put that additional surcharge on. So they were speaking as though they don't have the funds, which I understand, because they're going to have to pay it out of whatever they did collect. But we've had multiple people indicate that they aren't able to pay it because they did not collect it. And unfortunately, our office cannot waive the tax. So that may be where some of the confusion's from, is that you do have to pay. We can work with you and perhaps being some flexibility in when you pay, but you do have to pay, even if it means reaching in to the funds that you already received. There were some operators that requested that that they were adding it to their account and that they were going to try to recoup more funds in the future, and they were going to use that to pay the back tax. Our problem with that is that we can't wait for future revenue. We can't just say we can give you as much time as you need to collect it going forward. So I think that may be where some of the confusion lies, but certainly anyone that's looking for some flexibility in payment should contact our office and we can figure something out.
Thank you.
Okay, and just really quickly, because I think the deadline was today to make this payment, but we weren't able to receive any guidance based on, I believe, the outcome of this meeting here. So it sounds like we will be able to call back in and start setting up some kind of a payment plan now that there's some kind of a resolution from the board.
Yes, and that's Treasurer Tax Collector Patrick Sullivan's way. They're nodding yes. So please contact the office and go from there.
Thank you.
All right, is there one more hand? Mo, if you can unmute, and then no more hands on Zoom. And you said, sir, you had your hand up? Yes. Come on up to the mic, and you have 3 minutes. And this, please come to the mic. And,
I had to run out and get something to eat. I hadn't eaten all morning. But I just came in.
your name, sir?
Jack Sokolowski.
Okay.
I'm an Airbnb owner who received one of these notices. And I spoke with Patrick, and he told me to come down here because you guys were going to talk about the penalty and interest fees. I'm assuming that was waiver, that was, what's the resolution of that? Because it's difficult for us Airbnb owners because we didn't collect the taxes. Not like we collected it and spent it. We never collected it. And I want to make it right and pay my taxes, but I've only been in business for 2 years. And the first year and a half, I paid the quarterly for 2025. But the last year and a half that we were in business, not only was the tax not collected from the guests, because I was under the impression Airbnb was going to collect this tax from the guests and pay this TOT tax to the county. In a lot of cases, they do. In Lake County, they don't. I'm not sure why yet, but they don't collect the tax from the guests and pay the county. We're supposed to. So that was my fault. But not only did I not collect the tax, but the business didn't make any money the first year and a half. I've only been in business 2 years, and every penny we made, we put back into the business. So I'm pleading not only for no penalty and interest, but I want to get on a payment plan and pay the tax. But just something where I don't have to pay the whole thing in one fell swoop. I paid what I could afford to pay for 2025. I only have a year and 6 quarters from 2023 and 2024, 6 quarters in those 2 years to pay. And I just would love to pay you guys, but I can't pay it all at once. So can I work something out? Can we work together so that I can pay it? Because from this point on, it's not going to be a problem. Because the minute we got the notice, we went onto the Airbnb site and we added the tax. And so we're collecting it now from every guest we have, and we'll pay the quarter payment, no problem. You know, the only problem is the last 6 quarters when I first went into business, the Airbnb site never notified us that they weren't collecting it and paying. And when I checked the Airbnb site, it says that they do that with certain counties. And I had got a letter from a law firm that said they do that for a lot of counties, but not Lake County. For some reason, this one county, they won't do it for. And so I just want to get it all on the up and up.
Right. Your 3 minutes is up, and I think Patrick's, did you want to tell him?
Yeah, and I would just say we have Mr. Sokolowski's information, and I've already passed that file to 2 of our accountants that work on these cases, so they will be in contact to make further arrangements, including regarding payment.
Right.
The important thing is I wanted to get it in today because I knew today was the deadline. I drove all the way from Portland, Oregon to come down here.
All right, thank you. He's going to get staff in touch with you, and
Great.
you'll be able to go from there.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
all good. Okay, thank you.
All right. Madison? Oh, spoke before. Okay. Please unmute.
Yeah, sorry, I had a follow-up question since I didn't use my full 3 minutes. So that man is right. Normally Airbnb collects the tax from the guest. If you guys are asking for this tax, why haven't you set something up with Airbnb so that you can ensure you get paid every time right away and you're not, relying on these independent operators to try and dig through tax code from the 60s and try and figure this out? I mean, I think people want to pay, but it's not very clear and it's not very obvious. And 172 people didn't know about this tax. That's a lot of people.
Is that the?
So if I go onto Airbnb and I try to book a cabin in Arnold, it gives a line item of the costs, and a line item is the TOT tax that Airbnb collects on behalf of the owner and remits to the county. Like, is there a reason why you guys haven't set this up?
Is that are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Patrick.
So I can respond to that. There are a minority of cities and counties have entered into agreements with Airbnb and some of the other online platforms. But in order to get into one of these agreements where they will collect it on our behalf, you have to waive significant rights. You have to waive the right to back taxes. You waive most of our auditing rights. They're rights that we would never waive with any other taxpayer, and that's why we have not pursued these.
All right. Any other hands? Okay. Close public input. Supervisor Sabatier?
So I can't speak to what their search engine gave them, but it pops right up when you put in Lake County, California TOT tax. You go to the Lake County website, you look up tax collector, and it's on the front page. You got to scroll down, but it's on the front page. I feel like it's a bad comment, but I feel victim shamed that the community did not get paid taxes, and it's our fault for not setting it up correctly when it's right there, and more questions should have been asked. I also feel we are treating different individuals differently with today's action, where we have people who live in poverty who we fine and force to clean up their yards to meet expectations, but we're not willing to hold that same accountability to people who are running a business and not following the rules. Something is wrong.
Any other comments? Anything else to add or finish with? All right.
No.
What do we have? I think we have, we don't have action, you just need direction, right? All right?
Yes,
Do you think do you feel like you have direction?
I believe so, to follow up with county council, and we can determine what the appropriate step is.
In the 30,
Is that-
you guys mentioned like a 30-day period to contact, something along those lines? That's what consensus was, I know for.
Yeah,
I understood 30 days would be the maximum amount of
And then
period that penalty relief would be offered, and
then the tax collector and county council will come back for changes to the resolution that changes who the appeal goes to, because right now the appeal goes to us, correct?
correct.
Vice
yeah, I
Chair?
was just gonna say, after, considering public comment, I still have the same opinion that I had when we were discussing it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may add, just along with that direction on the resolution to also incorporate a potential review of the ordinance itself, transient occupancy, Chapter 18 of the Lake County Code, as it relates to the direction of staff on that resolution.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, Patrick.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Patrick.
Next, we'll go back to our consent item, which is 5.12, and it was pulled. Stephen, you want to go ahead and accentuate why it was pulled and how we can fix it? Go from there?
Sure. This item was pulled because one of the attachments was it was missing. And we reattached the corrected attachment for the change order, 8 a.m. on Monday morning. And to be clear for the public, Johanna is projecting the new attachment. It's really small if you can zoom in. So that's the only change, is we're fixing an attachment.
Okay.
Do you want to read the title?
Oh, yes, I didn't read the title, did I? Thank you. Thank you for that. I didn't even read the title. 5.12 is adopt resolution amending resolution number 2024-99 to amend the adopted budget for fiscal year 2024-25 by adjusting revenues and appropriations in budget unit 2301, sheriff and jail facilities, and authorize chair to sign. And B, approve change order number 1 to the agreement with Humboldt Fence for the Hill Road Correctional Facility exterior fencing project, bid number 250855, for an increase of $45,434 and revised contract amount of $271,384, and authorize the Public Services Director to sign. And he has the invoice up that's corrected.
Correct, and I can say it a little more coherently this time. The attachment titled Change Order Number 1, Hill Road Facility Exterior Fence, Sliding Gate, and RFID was actually a duplicate resolution. And subsequent to that, Monday morning, admin added the corrected attachment, which you see on your screen.
Any questions from the board? I'll open it up to the public.
Don't look.
Not seeing on Zoom. Any on Zoom? Bring it back to the board. Lloyd, did you have something to add?
I'll offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Owen,
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye. All right, resolution passes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve change order number 1 to the agreement with Humboldt Fence for the Hill Road Correctional Facility Exterior Fence Project, bid number 250855, for an increase of $45,434 and a revised contract amount of $271,384, and authorize the Public Services Director to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that concludes all agenda items except for 7.1, which is calendars. Who would like to start?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Tomorrow, actually, I have to make a phone call to our faith leadership chair from the Continuum of Care, hopefully this evening, if we get out in time, to try and coordinate. We are having conversations about using the encampment resolution fund that we receive, approximately $1.5 million, or exactly $1.5 million. And we're looking at what's possible with safe parking around the county and seeing what properties are available and how we can coordinate that with that money. We're really hoping to use it for other things, but everything costs so much, it goes away real fast, and this is a 4-year grant. Then I have LTA tomorrow. We're taking a field trip. And if I'm back in time, I should be able to make it back out here to the Lake County Children's Council. Then later on in the afternoon, I have a meeting with the Lake County Fire Safe Council. And then on Thursday, start with Judge's Breakfast, have an IFT meeting, an EMCC meeting. But there's also a simultaneous, I'm wondering if anybody's going to the CSAC May revision budget proposal overview. I think that's an important one, so glad to see your head nodding. I'm going to try to make it to that one, but I don't know. I registered for it just in case. LCOC performance review, we're going to be meeting later on in the afternoon, and then the Food Policy Council a little bit later on. I'm hoping that after this meeting for the Food Policy Council, we'll be coming back to the Board of Supervisors, letting you know of all the work that we've accomplished, our bylaws, all the stuff that we've done to prepare to really hit the ground running and give you guys an idea of our plan and hopefully get your blessing on it as well. I was planning, and I meant to say this earlier, to go to the First Responder Memorial on this Friday, but there's simultaneously a graduation at Lake County campus in Woodland Community College. So I've done the memorial before and hope to do it in the future, but I just cannot miss acknowledging and applauding for all the work that all those students have done to graduate, so I'm going to be there instead. This Saturday, I know I have something, it's not on there. Performance review again with Lake County Continuum of Care on Monday, meeting with our CAO, and back here on Tuesday.
Okay. Let me see. Last week on Wednesday, I went to the South Lake County Fire Council meeting, and we did a video on home hardening at the Middletown Fire Station. Went to the geothermal meeting at Calpine, and that was a really cool meeting. It went over the earthquakes and what creates the earthquakes and the reinjection. So there was a lot of really cool information about the geothermal operation. Went to the Lake County Recreation Agency meeting in Lakeport on that same day, on Thursday. Math that evening, where Glenn March gave a presentation on our roads and talked about, bringing our roads up to par. Friday, I met with Jeff Crane, the Middletown Superintendent, and the Middletown Unified School District, Community Service District, Public Works at the Coyote Valley Elementary to look at emergency evacuation in that area. Let me see. Yesterday, I met with in Clear Lake with Willie Cepeda and South Lake County Fire Districts to look at animal rescue and getting them set up for rescuing out of, for accidents, as well as going into rescuing large animals and livestock during emergency situations. We're putting something together for that. We will actually be having a large animal training on June 8th at Owen Ranch, and we have NorCal Livestock Evacuation coming up doing the training, and it's going to be open to everybody, so if anybody wants to come. The 13th, so today, board meeting, Glen March, okay. Red Cross is tomorrow, and OEC meeting, and the pre-Geyser negotiation meeting. I'm going to reschedule my Canocti meeting, which is Thursday. We have the junior high state rodeo finals in Red Bluff, so my granddaughter's competing there. I'm going to go watch that. Geyser contract negotiations on Friday, along with the Peace Officer Memorial. And on Sunday, I have a funeral service in Potter Valley.
Tomorrow, I was hoping to make the Red Cross open house, but I'm not sure I can. I have NACO ELU meeting, and then the NCO monthly check-in right after that, and then Lake County Biomass Project Team meeting, then the Geyser negotiations pre-meeting, and then Big Valley Advisory Council in the evening. Thursday, I'm going to make the CSAC webinar on the May budget revision. Best Fits grant meeting I could possibly attend, but I'm not sure because I'm presenting at NACO Resilient Communities. And then I have Cabaret Council in the evening. And then Friday, Geyser negotiations, Cold Creek Collaborative. I was hoping to make the first responder ceremony, but my niece is graduating, so I'm gonna go to that instead. And then all weekend, I will be at Six Sigma for the finals for the NorCal Mountain Bike League state championships. Monday is my meeting with CO Parker and Risk Reduction Authority.
Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you. Last week I attended the Sutter's first presentation on the Heart Hub that used to be called the Healthcare Innovation and Education Center. I also was interviewed by the grand jury last week. I had a meeting with the Lakeport mayor, had a space committee meeting, had a meeting with the Lakeport fire chief, went to the grand opening of the new Indian food restaurant in Lakeport. Also attended a barbecue event put on by the Veterans Administration over at Lakeside County Park last Thursday. Went to another grand opening of another business, Remax Real Estate in Lakeport. Spoke to a local group about things we have going on in the county. Went on a tour of Hamilton Haven, the unhoused shelter for some follow-up with the COC. And then I attended a sign design workshop. They're planning on upgrading signage for the Lakeport Community Center. Let's see, went to the Eli Stage lecture, which was really interesting, last Saturday on 20,000 years of cultural change in the county. It was very educational event. Met with the Sutter Lakeside Leadership Group yesterday, just for collaboration. Met with Lake County office with their new program that they have folks working on intern. I think they probably already reached out to the other supervisors. Did the final 10th week of Hitch survey was yesterday, so I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome of that community assistance for the county. And then I had a meeting at Highland Springs last night with the Trail Volunteers Group, trying to, just work with them on future volunteering with the county for maintaining trails out at Highland Springs. And then I have Fire Board meeting tonight, and I'll leave it at that for the week.
All
I have more this week, but I'll save that for next week.
right. All right. We'll have a meeting tomorrow with the constituent coming to the board pretty soon here, so I'll be meeting them tomorrow in Lakeport. Thursday, I have the TIPO meeting, which is here, monthly TIPO meeting with the tribes and with Terry Logston. And then Tango Mike will be in the evening, so I'll be going to that to help ship packages to soldiers. Friday, let's see, there's the First Responder Memorial Ceremony. I was asked to go to Mendocino College. I think I'll be going to that. I know the co-ed's at the same time, but I think I'll be going to the Mendocino College Native American Motivational Day. So I've been asked to speak there, so I'll probably go to that. Then also the annual Bloody Island ceremony will start Friday evening. The ceremonial dance grounds, the two new supervisors may not remember, but there was a road that went behind the casino that we dealt was called Foothill. I think it's Foothill Oaks. And so you take that road to the left behind the casino all the way out to the ceremonial grounds, or you can take Old Lucerne Road, which is across the street from Reclamation Road, and take a right. The ceremonial grounds are out there.
Are we invited?
Everyone's welcome. Yeah, anybody's welcome. Yeah, anybody is welcome to that. So, so that's the evening. In the morning at 5 a.m. On Reclamation Road, where the old rock is back by the actual island. That's where the morning ceremony, sunrise ceremony will happen. That's when they will have some elders speak, and then from there, they'll be having breakfast over at the conference centers in the casino. So that's usually how it goes, except for last year the breakfast was out at the ceremonial grounds, but this year it's going to be at the conference center. So
And what day is that?
that's Friday evening, and then Saturday morning at 5 a.m. So like if you
Time on Friday evening.
Friday evening, I would say like 6-ish.
Okay, so probably right
yeah.
after the
Yeah.
memorial.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do too, is just
Okay.
from here go there. So yeah, so that's what that is. It's the 174th year following the actual massacre. Then Monday, I have a meeting with some the CAO meeting, and then I'll have some meetings with some constituents, Clear Lake Oaks, and then the Risk Reduction Authority, right? Yeah, that's in Lakeport or Clear Lake. I don't remember either. It doesn't say. It just has a Zoom. Yep, it just has a Zoom. We'll definitely, maybe even just on Zoom. I don't know, but we'll be doing it.
Don't do that.
Yeah. And I'll make sure, and I know it's on my calendar. so
figure that
we're good
out.
there, at least. So, yep, and then we'll be back here for the board on Tuesday. And then, yeah, so we'll go into closed session. 8.1, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B, 1, interviews for Animal Control Director, appointment of Animal Control Director. 8.2, public employee evaluation, Social Services Director. 8.3, conference with labor negotiator, chief negotiator Carlos Torres, county negotiators Susan Parker, Stephen Carter, Casey Moreno, Pam Samick, and Diana Rico. And B, employee organizations LCDDA, LCDSA, LCCOA, LCEA, LCSEA, and LCSMA. 8.4, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property APN 028-251-090-371 Crystal Lake Way, Lakeport, California. Negotiating parties, A, county negotiators Robin Burray, Susan Parker, Stephen Carter, and B, Lake County Treasurer Tax Collector Patrick Sullivan, under negotiation, price and terms of payment. And then 8.5, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, E1, one potential case. All right.
Mr. Chair, just by way of update, according to staff, item 8.3 would be taken in a later date, so not.
Okay, so 8.3 will be taken at a later date, so we'll be looking at that one at another time. All right. With that, we'll go into closed session. Thank you for tuning in today and being a part of the meeting.